All right, so we're going to go over tonight the Christ, what we call the Christ heart generator. And when Leanne and I moved here, we started getting this information about the deeper aspects of the energy work, not just the Merkaba, which is really just the surface. And this is also about changing our genes and stepping into our X-men or X-woman powers, or X factor, if you will. It involves the Holy Grail, which is our chakra system. And so it's about activating our God-given source code superpowers, and that's written within us. It's like we're not separate from source in any way. It's just the illusion of source, because it's like we are part of source because we're woven from source. It's like everything in existence doesn't necessarily come from source, but it is within source. It's like an implosion instead of an explosion. Explosion throws out, implosion goes in. So we're activating our inner strength and inner power, our Stargate, which we have that ability to tune into different experiences. Like before we started tonight, we talked about being at the highest aspect of our experience or being at the lowest. It's like we get to choose that. May not feel like it all the time, but once you're an adult, you get to choose where you are in that experience. Are you at the bottom of it, which feels like hell, or at the top of it, where even the worst thing, you can still at least remain centered and maybe even content, even in the worst situation. So most of y'all are familiar with, we've talked about this before, the Merkaba, which is basically yin and yang energies. At the very center of that, the Merkaba is a stellated, which means it just puts points on the octahedron. And interestingly enough, the octahedron is the shape that Plato associated with the element air so long ago. And the air element is the heart chakra element. It's air, so it's really interesting. And it's the shape. So Leanne brought some oil that we'll play with today. This is when I'm running you through describing it, and then we'll do this a second altogether. So here are the four major Reiki symbols, and I was playing with it and just kind of came up with some new symbolism. Because if you don't know the Reiki system, you can just think about, see how this looks like the moon, and then you know how we've learned in our classes together that this goes over the emotional part of the brain, the limbic brain. And then this is the circle, this is the physical body. This has been the symbol for the earth and physicality for a very long time. Even in the Hopi map, they have the ring. It's not a cross, it's a ring that they have. And then the Hanshanze Shonin, which has to do with long distance healing. So this is emotional healing, physical healing, which is really just Kundalini. It's a snake coiled up. So when you use this symbol, you're activating the Kundalini energy. When you're here, you're clearing out the emotions. With this, the Hanshanze Shonin, there is no time or space. So this goes back to that octahedron at the center of our heart energy. And then source is where it then radiates out. So the thing that's been coming to me for a long time is that, not necessarily a long time, but as of recently, and I've been trying to own it, not just have the idea. You know, you can have an idea, but until you own it, doesn't mean much. That reality comes out of us. So this imagery here, which is really you, is actually the structure of everything. This is the structure of our galaxy. There is a black hole in the center of our galaxy, yet we have this spiraling out of the spokes of the galaxy, right? We have this toroidal field around the galaxy. So at the heart of our galaxy is a black hole. And you are the same thing. That's why I say black hole heart group. It's not black as in negative. It means the void, which everything comes out of. And when you're really balanced in your heart, where the yin and the yang are balanced, then we go into this. And then as a result of going into the center space, then what we desire is circulated out. Right? We talked a little bit about that too, about what we focus on all of a sudden starts showing up. It's like, because it's a two-way thing. Partly you're projecting it out, but also you're getting that radio frequency back in. I could put a radio right here in the middle of all of us, and it'll pick up at least 5 different stations which means the frequency that you want is already here. The reality you want is already here. The station you want is already here. It's just you tuning into it. So this is what this exercise is partly about. But the big thing to realize is that it comes out of us. Think about our galaxy. Think about our galaxy. Nothing comes into our galaxy to give it. It comes simply out of the center, right? Everything in this galaxy came from the center, the Big Bang, which is this heart black explosion. Nothing came to it. It all comes out. And I do believe that when you're in touch with this spot, like let's say you're in your heart space, and Nassim talks a bit about this too. And I found his work when I said, I think we're all singularities. And lo and behold, he'd already done some work on that. So, but when you're in touch with this, what he would call the Planck, which is a mathematical thing, when you're in your heart center, you're in touch with everybody else's and everything else's Planck, which means when you're in touch with this, you're in touch with the center of the galaxy's Planck system, which means it's coming out of you, but you're also calling for it to come out of that center. So that's the co-creation process. It's coming out of the galaxy or coming out of God because you are asking it to. You are tuning to it. God doesn't say you can't have anything, and you can have anything you want. It's what you tune into. So this is just a simplification of these symbols that Yusui brought into reality, which really, when I did some research, I really think that he didn't, the legend, there's always a legend, right? Compared to the truth, like Jesus has a legend, but the truth is a little more tricky. So this, as we've discussed, this goes perfectly over the meridian system, and he would totally have access to that because of Oriental orientation, right? This is not these two symbols are not heavy into kanji. These are kanjis right here. These actually mean something, the spirit and source. So I believe that he found these symbols and he played with how to work with them. So this is what's come to me recently. I've had when I put it on paper, it just totally began to shift for me. So we everybody here is familiar with EFT, which basically Gary Craig, who studied under Roger Callahan, did a quick tune-up, which started tapping in the center of the eye, the outside eye, and just tapped down the body. When I got into Chinese medicine and studying that, what I realized is that the meridian system doesn't flow like that, because first it's the lung, and then it's the large intestine. So I developed the tapping sequence, but now this is the next tapping sequence. And this is where it gets really crazy cool, is if all these meridians right here, if I tap here, then tap here, you see the shape that's created? Mm-hmm. Okay, all of these meridians are yin. All of these are yang. Then it makes total sense. There's the yin, the feminine heart. Here's the masculine mind. And then as I was doing that, I was like, that looks really interesting. So Draco, or I call it Draco, look how the similarity within the actual constellation. And then Phoenix, I could kind of get it to match. You turn it a little bit. So I'm calling this Phoenix Dragon Rising Tapping. And the next thing I'm going to show you why. So when I connected the line from here to here, I got the bird image. And when I looked up Phoenix, an interesting thing is it had two tails, not one tail. And I've been having a scissor tail bird visit me since this realization came to me. Here's where it gets even cooler, is that in Chinese medicine, so this is how it would look. Here's the feminine and here's the masculine, a perfect balance, which is tapping into the toroidal field as well. And here I drew it a different way. So this is yin, this is yang. In feng shui, the phoenix and the dragon are very important because they represent the complete yin and yang energy, a whole totality. So that was like, that's super interesting. And so I'm getting all these pieces differently. I don't go from information typically that I have and then go backwards. Usually stuff just comes to me and then it kind of stumbles together. So what you'll find within the Chinese system of feng shui, phoenix and dragon a lot. And so I did Google Earth. I have that little, not Google Earth, it was a celestial program. And what I found Because I just want to see where Draco and the Phoenix are. They are in complete opposites. The dragon is in the north, and I had to search all around, and opposite is the Phoenix, which is that north-south, just like the magnetic pole, right? Which is your toroidal field. So feng shui already knew that information. You know, it probably to that degree, but we're only shown so much because, you know, a lot of information is hidden from typical people. So then what we're gonna do is we're gonna go through this tapping sequence, and we're gonna do this in a minute. First, I'm just gonna go through. So we have the lung points that are in the upper shoulder. The colon is on the outside of the nose. And there's time periods in the element. We don't necessarily need that right now. Then underneath the eyes, and then this is basically where you see that, the spleen energy, which we learned Robert is the spleen. And then the armpit is the heart. So these are a little bit different because I'm not going outside of the torso. Toroidal. We're keeping it in the tube, so to speak. The next point is right in front of the ears, one we haven't really used too much. It's the small intestine. Then it goes to the bladder, water element, and then kidney points, the collarbone points. And then we're going to go to, this one's a little bit tricky. It's going to be a new one. So what I want everybody to do is just kind of come straight down from the shoulder. You can see what I've studied a little bit with the meridian system is it's slightly out. So here's your nipple. It's going to be anywhere just slightly above and out. So just take a moment to kind of just intuitively feel where that might be for you. And this tapping sequence, like if I was working on someone else, I would leave this out. So this is like a personal tapping sequence because, you know, for women it's going to embarrass. So I feel mine right there, and my right one feels a little. So kind of find that for yourself. So this is one of the newest ones we haven't played with. This meridian point is the middle finger if you did the extremities. Okay. So it's your emotional.
So is the spleen right here?
Yes. So they're all really
close.
They're really close. Remember that the diagram I showed you, how that's how close they are. So literally, it's just right in this system here is all the yin meridians, and right here is all the yang, which is like, I'm sure that I'm expecting to find that there's already been some research on that because I can't be the first person to come up with that. And then this is another one we haven't necessarily worked with. All right, so the triple warmer, you know how the gallbladder we tap right over the temple area? We're just going to go up slightly where you're just above that outside eyebrow. Okay, on both sides. And then from there, we slip down into the gallbladder. Does that make sense? So you're tapping above the eyebrow. So look at me, it's right about here. And then here for the gallbladder. Just so we can have these when we do the meditation. As I'm going to use less words, it's just going to be about doing the meditation. So of course we know.
Will it be cycling through those points?
Yes, it is going to show that for sure. I just won't use as many words. So that's tapping in, of course, into your Ark of the Covenant, right? And then liver point is underneath the breast tissue on the low rib cage, and you can take 2 or 3 fingers. It doesn't necessarily matter, and just kind of rub and see where you might have the sorest spot. So you can rub these points or tap them. It's up to you once we start. The next ones is going to be the center of the chest and then the crown at the same time, okay? So I want to go back one more second to show why this is so. Because when I was going through the points and finding that shape, what I did was it is zoom, 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 and then it ended here, okay? And why that is important, I feel, is because if I ended here, there was no center line junction, okay? But if I tap here, so there in Chinese medicines, there's 12 major meridians, but then there's also minor meridians. So, or not minor, but different strange flows and things like that. But these are 7 points instead of 6 points. So this point here is the feminine midline meridian called the conception vessel And this is the governing vessel. So by doing all that and then bringing it to the center, we've basically created that shape, all-inclusive energy there. So let me fast forward back where I was before. And then you'll have all these images. I'll just be talking less. And we're tapping the center of the chest there. You can use 4 fingers so you make sure you kind of hit the points. 4 fingers on the sternum, 4 fingers across the crown. And this represents a microcosmic energy because that meridian flows around the body in a single line. And then we're going to go from there to clearing the temple. And here I have to put on oils, but we're going to do that before we ever start, so it won't be a distraction. Leanne will go around and rub some oils that she had brought in your hands, if you so choose. You can smell it, make sure it's comfortable to you. And then we don't have frankincense or anything like that, but if you had a really pure oil, you can put it at the roof of your mouth, which accesses the nerves that go into the sphenoid bone, which is totally cool because you're hardwiring yourself right there.
I did burn frankincense.
Okay. But we don't have the oil to put in the roof of your mouth. And you only want to do therapeutic grade when you do that. So then we're going to clear the temple, which y'all are familiar with. So here's the Seiheki, the moon. We do this, and this will all be in time so you can see it. And you're holding the sides of your head, letting the light radiate out. So the Ark of the Covenant in your head, once you do that, it's going to be glowing gold. Imagine the crown energy pouring gold. You're radiating out from there, and then we're going to go into the chakra, and we're going to balance the chakra system, which we've done many times in group. Sorry. Leanne hates when I do that. It's like, give me a seizure. And then this I added recently. So we're going to come to the heart like this, tuning in and imagining that our tube is completely open, the beating heart of Christ. And then we're imagining that toroidal field around us, right? Okay. And then I have something new to show you tonight. So what we're going to wind up doing is, I was looking, all of a sudden it hit me to do a mudra. And I found this one that seemed to be perfect because it represents the heart chakra, which represents the indestructible, untouched, pure nature of mind. Hello, that's God, right? Unadulterated by our thoughts or perceptions. It brings more love into your life, to send love and compassion to heal a broken heart, or to give yourself courage to love and embrace the future. And I'm going to show you a video that will teach you how to do this because it's pretty cool. And see how it looks like a lotus, right? Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to plug that into our heart center. And here's the lung meridian, right? This is another one of those fractal overlays. See how the lung meridian, so in Chinese medicine, there's an external flow, and then it does things inside the body. So the lung meridian actually creates this diamond shape, which is that octahedron in the center of the chest. And Plato talked about it being the air element, and there's the lung energy, right? So we're going to be plugging, and the thumbs are the lung meridian. So we're going to, when we do this, I got tingles on this particular part, let's talk about it. When you plug it in, you've created an infinity figure 8 through your breath, which is going to help you tune into God.
And the diamond shape is formed by our hands.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm going to show you a video, and it goes through, and then we'll go to that part. So I'm going to show you the video now on that. There's 4 ways to do this. All those are pretty interesting. Do what they do. It's going to repeat 4 times, so don't get anxious about not getting it. All right, starting over. Each one's slightly different. Find the one that works for you. Those are the ring fingers. To me, that's the hardest one. That's the ring finger sticking out. Ring finger goes through the holes. This one is easy. You can see what they're doing a lot better. Lock the fingers down with that, then boom. All right, so let me repeat that one. One more second. We did this and pause. Let me go back. I'm going to turn this down to the music. A little bit. So what they're doing basically is the ring finger is the most important finger. The ring finger goes between your index finger and your middle finger.
Wow.
On the opposite. And then the middle fingers come down and lock those fingers in place. So I'm going to go around.
They don't bend very well that way.
They don't bend very well that way. I'm going to give you got it. That's it. Do it.
Just a comment from the side. Last time we met and we did the name thing with the Celtic. And John, remember when we talked about your name? His mission in life was to go into the cave, get the information from the dragon, and then bring it back out.
Perfect.
Which is exactly
Perfect.
what we're
That's good
doing
enough.
tonight. Which is
No, I'm sorry. It's perfect.
the dragon, Phoenix.
Exactly.
Dragon Phoenix going into the cave, getting the information, bringing it back out.
Let me show you an option, because the tricky part is to get that ring finger in between the index, and then these 2 fingers lock it down. All y'all have it right. But if that doesn't feel
It's
too
like my
comfortable,
fingers aren't long enough to do that.
yeah, if they're not, that's fine. Because here's what's really interesting. I've been doing this for a long time. I didn't know what it was until I started looking at it. So all I did was I just locked these into one another and did.
That's the church and steeple game we used to play.
Very similar, but it's also what we're doing is this. This is what we're creating. We're creating a double I love you, right? So you can just simply have your fingers touching inside if that's a little weird.
I got it.
So you got a version.
I thought it was rock on.
I love you,
All right, hang 10, yeah. All right, we're going to play this one more time. Wish I had a way of making it slow. Okay, now I'm going to pose it. So you're touching your fingertips. This is the lotus, so you start like a flower. Already got that? Okay. Now your ring fingers stretch. Okay. And then what activates it is locking it down with the middle fingers.
Okay.
There you go. Okay, don't worry about being perfect. It's good enough, as they say.
Okay. I just want to hold it until I need to use it.
And like I said, if that's weird, it's just, if that's because in the meditation, I won't show that part. I'll just kind of do a gentle guidance through it, okay? Because it's a little bit distracting. So, but then after that, look right here. Here's somebody doing it. Look what's, see how relaxed their fingers, they're doing it how I used to do it until I watched this video. So your fingers can just dangle inside, but look what's created when you look down at it. It's a heart, right? So we're going to be touching our middle fingers into our sternum.
Oh, my
Once we-
arms won't let go.
Huh?
My fingers aren't long enough.
She's stuck.
Well, don't
To
worry.
keep the thumbs together?
If you can do it like this too. There you that's close enough. Make an arc. Yeah, you're gonna arc it. Perfect.
Okay.
It's perfect. Don't worry about being.
I
So
can't get my fingers.
okay, that's okay. That's okay. So once we did that part, okay, we're gonna then focus on the heart generator, which is that octahedron at the center, or actually you can call this the heart of the Merkaba, right? And they're zoom, zoom, zoom. And then we're just going to imagine spinning it. And then from there, as we're spinning it, or either you can do this one of two ways tonight, and it's up to you, and it doesn't matter to me how you do it because we're playing with this, and we're going to keep working with it until we become really proficient to the point that we can do this without even doing all of the movements. We can just fall into that plank space where God and you are one. That's what it is. God and you are one if you do this right. So then we're going to spin the octahedron.
Quantum physics.
Right. And then what happens is anything can happen and it'll show up. So the octahedron you will spin, of course, probably a little bit faster than this. There's just a visualization. And then from there, once we've, so if you're doing the meditation and you're focusing on something to be created, and I'll kind of do a double guidance on this. Once you get to the point of where you're spinning that, you're imagining what you're wanting being spun out into the entire galaxy at this level, okay? You're spinning it all out, but also spinning it inward too at the same time. It's one of those weird double helix, one spin goes in, one spin goes out. And then the last one is the Daikomyo, the master, where the energy is spiraling out from your center energy, so this is like looking down on it and see how the octahedron is spinning, and then out from that octahedron is spinning whatever you want to be created. And then there's your energy field. And that be that part. Oops. Please. There we go. Stop that. I'll send that to group.